Hi everyone, it's me, Lubna. Today is Sunday, December 8th, 2024. This video is dedicated to my beloved, and the topic of this video is going to be about redeeming oneself and about having self-respect and respect for one's own potential. So in order to illustrate this topic, today I wanted to share with you another journal entry from the journal that I'm currently working on. And the journal entry that I wanted to share with you today is something that I wrote very late last night. So before I read it aloud to you, I'd like to show it to you in case you'd like to read it for yourself. And I will read that aloud to you now. Here it goes. Saturday, December 7th, 2024. I wanted to write down the following excerpt from the essay Higher Laws by Henry David Thoreau. It is the final paragraph of this essay. John Farmer sat at his door one September evening after a hard day's work, his mind still running on his labor more or less. Having bathed, he sat down to recreate his intellectual man. It was a rather cool evening, and some of his neighbors were apprehending a frost. He had not attended to the train of his thoughts long when he heard someone playing on a flute, and that sound harmonized with his mood. Still he thought of his work, but the burden of his thought was that though this kept running in his head, and he found himself planning and contriving it against his will, yet it concerned him very little. It was no more than the scurf of his skin, which was constantly shuffled off. But the notes of the flute came home to his ears out of a different sphere from that he worked in, and suggested work for certain faculties which slumbered in him. They gently did away with the street and the village and the state in which he lived. A voice said to him, "Why do you stay here and live this mean, moiling life, when a glorious existence is possible for you? Those same stars twinkle over other fields than these." But how to come out of this condition and actually migrate thither? All that he could think of was to practice some new austerity, to let his mind descend into his body and redeem it, and treat himself with ever-increasing respect. This excerpt, and Thoreau's Walden as a whole, altered the entire course of my life when I was 16 years old. I had to read Walden for my IB English class during my junior year of high school. At the time, I was going through a major transition in my life associated with changes to the structure of my family. I was feeling quite helpless, too young to assert my independence, yet too intelligent to be trampled upon by life's issues. It dawned on me that the only surefire way out, the only legitimate pathway to freedom, would be the acquisition of wisdom. Wisdom would lead to self-respect, and that in turn would lead to transcendence over the sources of difficulty. This was how I saved myself, how I became aware of my own potential and my true identity. In every instance in which I find myself reverting back to that 16-year-old girl, that state of perceived helplessness, I return to the passage about John Farmer. I wake up and remember that a glorious existence is possible for me. In fact, it is already mine. I respect the power of my mind, which has been granted to me by God for a higher purpose. So that is the journal entry that I wanted to share with you today. And as I was writing this journal entry very late last night, I was reflecting upon this passage about John Farmer from Henry David Thoreau's essay titled Higher Laws, which is part of his collection of essays written at Walden Pond. And in my mind, I went back to how I felt when I was 16 years old. This young girl full of dreams, yet feeling quite helpless because of my situation in life, and particularly my family situation. When I read that passage in my IB English class at that time, it just inspired me so much because I could see myself in that character, in John Farmer, who, as he was sitting at his porch after a long day of work, he could hear the sound of a flute. And when he heard this beautiful melody being played by the flute, it stirred something within him, and it made him desire a better and more beautiful life for himself. And it made him wonder why he couldn't have that, what was stopping him. And he realized that that type of a life was possible for him. If it was possible for somebody else, it was possible for him too. And he realized that whatever he imagined in his mind as the life that was possible for him was really possible, and he could make it a reality. And at the very end of that passage, Thoreau writes that John Farmer let his mind descend into his body and treated himself with ever-increasing respect. And that line just was so powerful to me, and it made me realize at that age of 16, when I read it for my English class, that I could do the same thing. I could treat myself with respect and respect my own potential and my gifts and talents and make use of my mind despite my circumstances. I learned that that was something that nobody could take away from me. They could take away everything else from me. They could take away my life, everything around me, like my material possessions and things like that. But nobody could take away my mind and the freedom of my mind, my freedom to think and to share my thoughts like I do now through my videos, and to write down my thoughts in writing in my journals. Nobody can take that away from me. And I hope that by sharing this example with you today about John Farmer from the essay Higher Laws by Henry David Thoreau, and my own personal connection to this passage, I could inspire you to similarly treat yourself with ever-increasing respect, to respect your potential and the gift of your mind. Society makes us think that we need so many things, so many material possessions, and we're constantly surrounded by advertisements for things that they make us want, they make us feel like we want, and they make us feel like we need. But we really don't need any of that. Everything we want is already inside of us. It's inside of our minds, it's inside of our imagination. And we can create so much just by using our imagination. And when we realize that, when we realize the potential of our own mind, it makes us respect ourselves much more and respect the value of our lives and our existence and our ability to make an impact on this world. So I hope that you have learned something very valuable from my video today about redeeming yourself, about seeing your true potential and respecting your potential and the qualities that you have within yourself, that especially the ones that nobody else has, the qualities that are unique to you, the gifts that are unique to you, that you have the potential to share with the world. Thank you as always for taking the time to listen to my video today. It really means a lot to me. And with that, I'd like to wish you a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, or whatever it is wherever you are in the world.